Gilberto and I decided to take a course in syntropic agriculture in Chiapas, Mexico. We'd been learning about syntropic agriculture on YouTube and were intrigued, and we were in need of an adventure, so we decided to leave our comfort zones and journey into the unknown. Took us 3 flights and a whole bunch of buses and taxis, but 34 hours later, we finally arrived in Palenque. Once in Palenque, we took another truck deep into the jungle, and the final leg of our journey required walking through a pasture to our final destination, a small permaculture village in the middle of the jungle called the Garden. We were greeted by delicious meals and wonderful people who shared the values of eating well and connecting with the land and one another. The Syntropic Agriculture course was taught by the Way Bill Collective. In the afternoons, we attended classes, and in the mornings, we participated in an apprenticeship where we planted based on the syntropic agroforestry design they had developed. I learned so much, and I'm still going through all the material and translating it into a system that would work in Zone 9A. So this video will be a high-level overview, and I plan on making more detailed videos in the future. I've also included some resources in the description for you to explore in the meantime. Syntropic farming is a method of agroforestry developed by Ernst Götsch. It is driven by the power of natural succession and goes well beyond organic and is far beyond sustainable. It is all about creating abundance, and it's a game changer for modern agriculture. Syntropic farming relies on planting schemes called consortiums. It's like companion planting and intercropping on steroids. And the key to syntropic farming is succession. Succession is what makes this form of farming so powerful and so complex. To design a syntropic system, first think of every plant that can grow in your area, then study the life cycle of each plant, its sunlight requirements, and how tall it grows relative to other plants in your system. All this information is then put together like a Rubik's Cube to create the most effective and efficient growing system possible. One that promises to heal the earth, provide beyond our needs, and get better every year. There are 3 keys to syntropic farming. The first is pruning. This is done strategically to stimulate growth, create biomass for fertilizer, and maintain the balance of the system. The second is to cover the soil with organic matter, leaves, sticks, logs. This feeds the soil and protects it from the sun and weeds. And the third is to plant intelligent consortiums. In this row, we planted a banana tree for biomass and fruit. Then next to it, we planted what's called a nest, which here included cacao and tomato. This seems like an odd pairing since cacao needs shade and tomatoes need sun, but tomatoes grow quickly and will complete its life cycle before the banana tree we planted next to it emerges. The cacao tree grows much slower than the tomato and will be shaded by the banana tree once it's mature. We then split banana trees and place the trunks around our nest, as the banana trunk is full of moisture and will keep the soil from drying out. We then covered the nest in a thick layer of mulch. Next, we added 2 yucca cuttings, planted at 45-degree angles over the cacao. These will provide shade for the delicate cacao seedling, biomass for the soil, and eventually the root can be harvested for food. We added radish and cilantro seeds as well. That was just one row. In another row, we planted pineapples, cultivated from the tops of pineapple fruit which had been saved and sprouted. Between the pineapples, we planted tomatoes and yucca, mustard greens, arugula, then radish and moringa seeds. All of this is happening just in this small plot of land that we had first lightly tilled and laid paths of logs to protect the soil from the sun and encourage the growth of mycelium. In another nest, we planted taro, again creating a little nest with banana trunks for moisture retention. and then sprinkled on some microorganisms harvested and cultivated from deep within the jungle. We later came through and added beans and peanuts on one side of the row, and on the other side, along the paths, we propagated a plant called higanton for biomass. By planting it right near the path, its leaves can be easily chopped and dropped right into the beds for fertilizer. It was a lot of work, but farming in the jungle was rewarded with fresh cacao and the company of joyful people who are all focused on creating the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Everyone had a story and a song and came with an open heart. And every day I was blown away by how much we accomplished with joy and enthusiasm. Most of the days were spent cultivating and preparing food, as well as tidying up the jungle. But there was a beautiful balance, a tranquility that permeated through the whole space and quieted the thoughts in my mind. Living this way was a reminder that humans were created to be guardians of the earth and how healing it can be when we reclaim that role. It was also comforting to always be around others and to be working together towards a common goal, which frankly is so different from what my experience has been living in cities and suburbs. I got to experience community with some wonderful people.
Me llamo Mio. Y Mio, mi nombre verdadero en japonesa es Miho Mizuno, Mizuno Miho. Y significa bella vela, vela de barco que corre en agua, bella vela en agua salvaje. Yo nací en Japón y yo viajaba más que 20 años, entonces sí. Yo vivía antes de venir aquí, vivía en Perú, cerca de Cusco. Ahí yo estaba cuidando una comunidad como jardín y ahí conocí a Martín. Martín llegó a donde yo vivía y Martín me invitó, ven, Palenque, necesitamos guardián. Y yo estaba muy cansado de estar en frío, porque ahí hace frío. Y me gusta mucho de mi corazón, me gusta mucho selva, por eso, ok, me voy. Por eso vine aquí, hace 8 años atrás. Cuidar animales me gusta mucho y también de mismo cuidar plantas y cuidar visitantes también. Como me gusta cocinar y me gusta plantar. Creo que muy importante es creer en un universo que fluye, ¿no? Cada vez entiendo más que no planear mucho, no quedar en un pensamiento, no siempre. Si algo pasa, ok. Que hay que fluir, ¿no? Siempre acepto con gratitud y tener siempre, ¿no? Mente positivo para seguir, ¿no? Y abrir camino. Entonces, guía es como de energía de universo, de corriente de universo. ¡Wow! ¿Qué me hace feliz? Uy, hay muchas cosas, ¿no? Muchas cosas. Una plantita me hace mucho feliz, ¿no? Como ver una flor también me hace mucho feliz. Ahí estar con la familia, comer bien, cantamos juntos. Y la verdad todo. Sí, estoy muy feliz de estar aquí, de tener toda esta vida, ¿no? Tan bonita.
When we weren't working, we went on excursions exploring the jungle. We visited the ruins of the ancient Maya civilization that collapsed around the year 850. It seems the reason the site was abandoned is not entirely known, but likely a combination of factors, including overpopulation, environmental degradation, and extended drought. The irony that we were staying in a permaculture village in the midst of these ruins was not lost on me, and a grave reminder of what can happen when we live out of balance with nature. After the city was abandoned, the jungle reclaimed what was taken and swallowed the city. Though over 1,400 buildings have since been excavated, it is estimated that over 90% of the city is still wrapped in the jaws of the jungle, waiting to be rediscovered. It's hard to imagine that an area with so much water could ever run dry. And perhaps we don't realize how good something is until it's gone. Entropy is a measure of loss due to disorder. Entropy is a system dissolving into chaos. The more disordered something is, the more entropic it is. Syntropy is the opposite of entropy. Syntropy is the tendency towards energy concentration, order, organization, and life. Syntropy is what happens as systems become more orderly, complex, and resilient. We've been living in a collective state of entropy. As we experience our civilization crumbling and shifting, we are left to choose fear, denial, nihilism, or can we be brave enough to step into something other? Can we trust our spirit to guide us through the chaos that is necessary for transformation? And through it all, can we fall in love with everything just as we are? Coming here and experiencing this new way of life, one that is orderly, resilient, and richly complex, has been not only healing, but affirming. I used to constantly wonder if I would ever achieve my dreams, or if I was going to be okay. And now I'm beginning to instead wonder, what if things turn out far better than I ever imagined? Now, that's not to say the whole trip was fairy tale and fantasy. Everything has a shadow. There's a whole lot of life in the jungle, and it's fighting for survival. These industrious ants, which first I found very charming, were all over the place, working day and night. And when you crossed their paths, oh, you would know. They would bite, get all inside your toes and be biting between your toes, and it hurt. My poor feet were constantly under attack. And I can't tell you how many spiders there were. So many big, hairy spiders. And scorpions, too. But the scariest critters are the ones you can't see. My body was under attack in the jungle. Also, one day while we were planting peanuts, I slipped on the logs they use for paths and scraped the whole back of my leg. It was so bad I couldn't get myself to take a picture of it. I was really glad Gilberto brought my calendula salve, which healed my skin really fast, but I was left with a nasty bruise. To help with the blisters on my arms, Mio suggested I drink a strong cup of neem tea, and together we collected the leaves and prepared a cup. I didn't really know what neem tea would do, so I drank a cup, and the next day I felt a bit off, but I went to town anyway to connect to the internet. As soon as we got into town, the smells of butchers and car exhaust made me nauseous, and I started vomiting. I got home as soon as I could, and I spent the whole night purging everything in my body. I was sick for at least 8 hours, out under the stars in the middle of the jungle. And I think that was the first time I was ever scared of what was happening to me, but also scared at an existential level of how vast and powerful the forces of nature are, and how small and fragile we are. I woke up late the next morning and I felt amazing. I felt light and joyful and just so grateful to be alive and have awoken in such a beautiful place. The rest of the trip, I felt much more comfortable in the jungle. I also discovered how much I enjoyed working in the greenhouse by the tiny island. The spider-free environment and filtered light felt much better suited for me, and I enjoyed preparing the seed starts by sifting soil and bokashi. The work was meditative and allowed my mind to wander to new places, new visions for a future. I thought of everything I had seen and experienced, our place in nature, our power as humans, our ability to dream, to choose, to design, to tame the wild, and let the wild tame us. If I learned anything while in the jungle, it's that we are so close to the beautiful world our hearts desire. If we face our fears, take risks, explore, have faith, love, our destiny lies just beyond the illusion of fear.